You're listening to Grain of Salt, a podcast hosted by Donnie Britless and Chris Glennie-Seishu, covering the Buffalo Niagara region's food and drink scene. This week, Donnie is talking to Dustin Murphy, the Executive Chef of Tabree and Snyder. They talk about his upcoming Nickel City Chef Battle, how Dustin found his way into the kitchen, what it's like to work under two talented local chefs, and the time he unknowingly cooked for Andrew Galarneau.
Chris earlier, we're just talking, like, I basically gave her a whole rundown about
yourself,
myself, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay. I don't know why, like, she said, I really need to meet up with you, and I was, are we like recording right now? Or
sure.
Okay, cool. No, basically, it's like I just wanted to meet up with you and just kind of like get up to date and give me the rundown of a whole Nickel City, and
Yeah.
This is this is something different, and
Yeah.
try to stay out of the spotlight. Just kind of try to come into work and do our thing and have fun and, make people happy. And
So which one are you facing against? Who are you going against?
I'm going against Brian Meadis from Bacchus.
Oh, nice.
That's
a pretty good. I think you guys have pretty good styles to match against.
Honestly, I don't know the guy, but
He's a very chill dude.
That's what I've heard. I heard he's pretty laid back.
Yes.
He's an older guy. He's got some years on me, an old gunslinger, but that's cool,
An old gunslinger.
Well, hey, why not?
Nice. Are you gonna do any scoping out? Are you gonna check out Bacchus before the competition?
Some people I may or may not have been told to check in with them and talk to them and just kind of just get some ins and outs and just get a feeling for
his style,
what to expect.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, if
the Nickel City chefs in general are very gracious. Like, I know JJ usually invites people to his restaurant before they compete, and I think Adam does the same thing. They're very chill.
Yeah, I know that when I worked at Park, James Roberts, he was kind of every day in and out. As soon as he found out a little link onto what the secret ingredient was going to be, he was had all the pressure cookers working and just this and that.
So you were there when he competed against JJ?
Yeah. Well, what happened was, it would have been nice to spend the St. Patrick's Day parade enjoying Buffalo a little bit. Me being an Irishman,
Yeah.
it would be fun. But
And young and enjoying drinking in public?
Yeah, something like that, something along those lines. But it would have been, but honestly, playing with the pressure cookers and just kind of getting a feel for things and just realizing this is kind of cool. I'd rather be doing this, So
it was him just messing around with stuff that he was planning on doing.
yeah, he was prepping, and it was a close battle.
Yeah.
And it was a good time. So that kind of that right there is was a little taste of it, and I was I never thought I'd really be trying to do the Nickel City thing, but
yeah, it's kind of you kind of have a little advantage there. You got to see behind the scenes of a guy ready to compete for it.
Absolutely.
I mean, with all due respect, it's a high order to try to match with.
It is, and it was kind of I'm still in a learning phase. You never stop learning. And when I saw him doing it, I was it's probably not going to be me doing this for a long time, but
fast forward 3 years or 4 years.
Yeah, it's kind of it's free game for whoever wants to do it.
Yeah,
and whoever's interested, and just why not bring it, give it your best.
So have you already in your head started thinking about things that you would even potentially do, or have you are you going to wait till you're closer to actually form a menu and things like that?
To be honest with you, we've just been kind of every day is just kind of a different story at work. It's either we're going to get slammed, we're going to be busy. I want to focus on it, but we're focused on just making sure we're set for service.
Yeah.
But it's always on the back burner. I'm always thinking about it.
Yeah.
Adrian's thinking, hey, let's do this, or he's focused on desserts and just playing around and pulling things out of books and just we don't know what our ingredient's going to be, and we're just kind of when we find it out, let's make it happen, and we're gonna give it our all, you know. So
What day is yours? Which
March 8th.
March 8th? Okay.
So
you have the luxury of probably attending the first one, right?
I do. Unfortunately, everybody loves them, and they sell out like that. So it's
something tells me you maybe could get through the back door if you wanted to.
Yeah. Well, maybe if I may or may not know somebody that could maybe sneak me in that back door. So.
Yeah. But,
we'll see.
Have you seen a competition before?
I have never been to one. Like I said, because they sell out like really fast. Yeah. But I'd love to go to one. But I'd like to kind of check out Artisan Kitchens and Bath and just kind of get a feel for the place. And
the kitchen. I know. I remember Ed Forrester before his competition. He actually went to the previous one and brought like a tape measurer. And was like actually like measuring how much space he had to like move.
That sounds like something Ed would do.
That's exactly something
I like his style. So yeah,
that's cool, man. It's gonna be really exciting. I
think it's gonna be good. And it was kind of like why not try to be in the spotlight for once? Like I said, if the best man win. We win, we win. We lose, we lose.
I think generally
we're just trying to have fun.
Exactly. I think generally most of the Nickel City chefs aren't like hyper competitive. Like obviously everyone wants to win, but it's more of it's cool that we're all here doing this in front of people who give a shit about food. Like people who are literally interested in what you're doing and stuff. And also it's great exposure.
Yeah, exactly. And I was talking to Krista about that earlier. I was like, it's cool. Like over the past, when I worked at Park, I really didn't know a lot of these names. Like they were getting dropped, and like I was kind of, it was fun to get exposed to this, and like those late night hours at like when Gedra said, "Hey, we can come out and hang out." Like we do this thing where we just kind of hang out, and all right, and like next thing you know, I'm like chatting with people and shaking hands. I'm like, these people are all right. I'm like, these guys all trying to do the same thing, trying to make the dream happen. So hey.
So how did you get your start in like generally the cooking world?
Honestly, I did got out of high school. I kind of, my junior and senior year, I applied for I actually tried to get the culinary arts program.
Oh, so you knew like right out of high school you were going to do cooking.
No, actually, I'm sorry. Let me clarify that a little bit. My junior and senior year, like they give you this option, like pick a different trade you want to do.
Okay,
and I chose culinary arts, but apparently it was full, so I got put into the HVAC program, which is heating, air conditioning, and refrigeration. And I was like, okay, kind of sort of related in a way because you're always going to need a guy that can like fix your
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 there
walk-in
will always
cooler.
Be a demand
you're
for that
need
job.
that. You never know when you're going to need that guy, but that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
So my counselor was like, okay, I'll tell you what, just write it out. Let me know in like 2 weeks how you feel about it.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 weeks up and gone. I was like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
Like I kind of, there's a reason I picked culinary arts.
Had you cooked like prior or you just kind of knew?
No, I don't know what it was. Just something kind of like, I just thought it'd be something cool to do.
Nice.
Why not?
That's cool.
And basically I was told that, sorry, it's full. You got to write it out for the next 2 years. So my junior and senior year of high school, I was kind of like, all right, so I guess I do HVAC, see how it works. I got through the program. I got certified, whatever. I did the whole program.
So you have this in your back pocket as well.
I do, which is not something bad to fall back on. You know what I mean? Like
if everything goes wrong,
it's not a career to shake a stick on or shake a stick at because it's kind of like, you can make some good bucks in it, but that's just.
Hey, and if something goes wrong at the restaurant,
honestly,
you potentially could fix it.
You got to do what you love to do. You
know?
It's like it was cool. I kind of got a feel for it, but after high school, I kind of was just kind of bumming around, just trying to figure out what I want to do. And I left Buffalo. I went to Chesapeake, Virginia, with my aunt and uncle and cousins. And my uncle was in the Navy. He was stationed down there in Chesapeake, Virginia.
Okay.
And he basically told me, he's like, "Hey, come on down here. I got some strings to pull for you in the shipyards, and maybe I can get you in here or get that."
Nice.
Which are basically what you did for the last 2 years. Didn't work out as planned. Long story short, and next thing I know, I kind of my aunt got me this job at this like basically bar and grill, and I was just like, all right, just checked it out. whatever. I gave it my all, just kind of had some fun. And then, a few weeks pass, place closes down, and I'm just kind of like, well, that's
you're already introduced to the
I'm
lovely
kind of like, okay, all of a sudden, I'm like,
restaurant.
I get in the groove of things. I'm like, this is fun. I'm like, I was kind of liking this. I'm like, everybody's like, wow, you really, you're doing a pretty good job. I'm like, way to kick ass. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know, like, whatever. I feel like you got to come into work, you give it a positive attitude. If this is not what you can do for a living, at least give it your all. You know? Like that goes. With that being said, goes towards anyone that like, if you're a server and it's just like, you might be going to school for another degree or whatever, and you come in, you're working your 5 to 10 shift and make a couple bucks in your pocket.
Yeah.
I know you don't want to be here, but you just want to be here to make the extra bucks. And you get out of work. You get out of work plenty hours before the chefs do. They've been sitting there at 9 a.m. in the morning and just busting their ass all day long. Yeah. Hey, but we do it because we love it, right?
Yeah, Well, I mean, was there any hesitant because, I mean, like literally your first exposure and the place closes down? Was there any party where
it was just kind of weird because it was just like I kind of rolled in one day and like I saw my friend Aaron. He was just like laying outside on this bench. I'm like, he's like pounding his fists on the ground. I'm like, fuck's going on, man? He's just like, we're closing in 2 weeks. I'm like, we're closing in 2 weeks. I'm like, we just had like a great like couple months. I'm like, what's going on here? I'm like, we're like, everybody was like loving us. I'm like, this place was called the Deck Bar and Tiki Grill. It was a side project of Hooters. And so, no, I'm serious. Yeah, so serious. So like every like product that was in the cooler had like the Hooters name on the box.
Nice.
So I'm like,
nice. It sounds like a great place.
We all know Hooters, right? So
I do. I remember when they're on Maple.
Right. I don't think there's any in Western New York right
now.
No,
unfortunately that closed and they haven't come back.
So.
So,
all right. So whatever.
So that place closes.
So place closes down. I'm just kind of like the guy that was the general manager was like, well, basically he's like, not to leave you guys high and dry, but like, if you guys want to bounce around, like I got a couple links. Like if you guys want to go work here or there. Excuse me. Basically, it turned into I got dumped off in like this hotel right on like the boardwalk in Virginia Beach. It was called the Boardwalk Sea Grill or Rockfish Boardwalk and Sea Grill, and I kind of saw like this is a little more serious. Like I see the guys are doing things like and it was really cool. I started working there for a little bit, and then once I got in the swing of things, I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. Like and living with my aunt and uncle all the time, it's like, well, I kind of want to, maybe this is what I want to do. You know what I mean? Like,
so this is all down in...
This was in Virginia Beach.
In Virginia,
I was living in Chesapeake. I was working in Virginia Beach. It's about 25 miles out.
And so now this is like your first exposure to like a real like kind
this
of
is when I
restaurant.
kind of like was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, I was just sitting there with my aunt watching her cook the one day, and I made a suggestion. She's like, well, why don't you just cook dinner? I'm like, apparently you know what you're doing. I'm like, so then I was like, just along the way, kind of like, just kind of figured it out. And I was like, this is kind of what I wanted to do. And I was like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
So what happened was I didn't work out, and I kind of sort of left Virginia, and my buddy was getting married. I came back up here and kind of flipped the switch, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go to school up here.
Okay.
So I went to ECC North,
nice.
Community College, and it was great. I worked with a lot of really great chef instructors, and
that's cool. I've heard good things about the ECC program.
Chef Stenzel was the first chef I met there, chef instructor, great guy.
Yeah.
I had Chef Andrzejewski, as a, for
he's not bad.
A little bit. Yeah, he kind of knows what he's doing. So
some would say.
Almost took my head off for Oktoberfest, but that's another story. But with a saute pan, but no big deal. And so that kind of branched off, and then they had this program offered to us for anyone that was interested in going to basically study abroad in Italy.
Yeah.
And I was like, at the time, like, why not? I'm a single guy, just having fun in school. Why not? Give it a shot. And we got it funded. We took off. We left at the end of May. And
that's awesome.
We came back right before August. I was there for 10 weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right on the Amalfi Coast. It was cool. I was working at this restaurant called Capadorso, which is it meant head of the bear and American. But
did you come back knowing some Italian?
That's what everybody like jumped on my case about. Was like, speak to me in Italian and talk to me. I was just like,
you didn't just naturally soak it in.
Honestly, you know what? It was like it was such like a rush to like just get everything in, and like, okay, so I had to do this like, I had to go to the Language Institute on Delaware, and it was just like. There's 60 people in this room on a Monday, and it's just like it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and everybody just got out of class, or everybody's coming from all different their jobs or whatever. And there's one woman from Sicily, and like everybody's asking her like, how do you say this and how do you say that? I'm like, it was not worth it. Like it was like I'm not going to learn what I want to learn.
So you just eventually learned.
Yeah, I kind of figured it out in the end.
Yeah,
so it's just like, all right, I did the program, I was certified. Okay, let's do this. We took off for Italy, and we had such a great time. And
did you come back from Italy like pretty much like ready to, like even more affirmed?
I felt like once I came back, I was kind of like, wow, this was really cool. Like, this is, like I was ready to take on the world, but it's like, at the time I was 25. Like I'm still kind of very young, just trying to learn. So
yeah, awesome. That's sweet. So how did you end up at Park? Like, what was the?
What happened was actually I was working. Prior to Park, before that, when I came back from Italy, I was working at this small place in Elmo called the Blue Lantern Lounge.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I just, pay rate, money, wasn't cutting it, and, it was time to move on. So a friend of mine, Mark Teat, was working at Pano's, and he kind of just was like, I pick up your speed a little bit, maybe you want to check this place out. Didn't know anything about it. I was like, okay. So I went to Pano's, worked there for a little bit. Started as a saute cook.
Nice.
Worked my way up the ladder. Next thing
was
I know,
this pre construction Panos or post? Like when they like
this was right. This was right after they actually. This was like probably a month after they.
It went from being like basically like a home to this like massive like production.
That's the thing. Like I didn't know the whole backstory behind the place, but basically what happened was Mark told me, he's like, dude, he's like. The week they opened back up, we did probably 7,500 covers. And we were slammed every night. He's like, we couldn't even keep up. He's like, we were just buried every night. He's like, but he's like, as soon as they opened those doors, and I'm like, I didn't know anything about this place. I'm like, I don't know what Panos was. You know what I mean? It's like, just come in. You want to pick some speed up. You want to learn some things. He's like, it might not be the tidiest of places. I'm like, but you know what? A little honest dirt never hurt anyone. Okay, so whatever. I came in there, ready, dressed, impressed. I'm like, all right, let's do this. Okay, and I met the chef, and pretty cool guy, and I kind of wrote it out for a little bit. I'm like, this place is all right. Front of the house, back of the house, mashed. It was cool.
You must have got in some serious hours at that place, because that place is always like an hour wait.
Basically, the way it worked was, I was living in Angola, which is where I grew up. So I'd leave Angola at like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Jesus Christ.
In a snowstorm, and drive from Angola out to Williamsville, and basically get out there and then go to labs for 3-4 hours, then have a lecture for another hour, and then I'd get out, and then I'd haul ass down to the city, and I would sit there, and I'd take a 10-minute snooze on Bird, and then I'd get out of my car, go into work a 3 to like 11, 12 o'clock, haul ass back to Angola in the snowstorm, sucked ass, and then had to turn around and come back to Williamsville at 8 o'clock in the morning. But you know what? Did I ever complain about it? No. I was just like, whatever. It's just like, that was my life, fucking 5-6 days a week. So, whatever. I mean, hey, I'm not the only guy that's been there and done that. Am I complaining? No.
No. But no, I mean, I think a lot of people go through those. You do what you have to do to
what doesn't
make it
kill you
happen.
makes you stronger. So.
That as well, yes. I mean, I think like if you can go through that and still want to do that as a profession, then you really want to do that.
That was the thing,
and
like a lot of people, I felt like I had a lot of fun in school, and a lot of people, like I saw who was going to make. I felt like I could see who was going to make it, and who wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like,
Yeah, that's good.
So
how did you go from Panos then to?
Okay, so basically what happened was Panos just, I don't know, I just kind of was getting a little stale. You know, I mean, it was great people, it was a good ride, but like, I basically wanted to work with a chef that like kind of knew what he was doing, and like, was, just get a better feel for things. And again, my buddy Mark delivered. He's like, he left Panos, and he was like, he bumped into Mike Andrzejewski, and he was just like, he started working at Park Country Club, and he's like, Murphy, he's like, you know, you really want to get a taste for things, you really want to get like in the field, like, you know, I think you should come check this place out. So he, you know, gave me James Roberts' email and like his number, and I like called him and I sent him an email and I told him like, hey, I'm like, I heard you're hiring, you know, I'm interested. And I called him, I left him a couple of messages, he got back to me, and he called me up, I missed the call, and he's like, hey, he told me who he was, attitude's first and foremost, I'd be very interested in meeting you. You know, so I put a cover letter together and a resume, and like I told him, he's like, okay. I walked in the club and I was like, very nervous, and I mean,
that's an intimidating place to walk up to just from the appearance of the
it was
of the
very,
building.
and I'm just kind of like, I walked in the wrong door when I first got there, and I'm just like, they told me to come in like the door to the left of the kitchen. I'm like, I had no idea where the hell the kitchen was. I'm like, okay, this looks like a door I should walk in. And like I walked in, I'm like, this is not the door I should be in. But I'm like, then when I got in there, I'm like, I walked in, I'm like, okay, I'm in the kitchen. I'm like,
nice,
you know. So it was kind of like I saw these people scrambling around and like doing their thing, and like they had the chef coats on, the toques, and I'm just like, all right, this is pretty legit, you know, like this is no joke. So
I mean, I've been in the kitchen once. I think I was one of the last backdoor meals.
I think I may or may not remember you coming in there for
some fried chicken. Yes.
Chicken.
And that place looks like an operating
so maybe homemade kimchi or something like that.
But that place looks like an operating room. Like the way James kept it, like that was like one of the cleanest, nicest, like structured kitchens I've ever seen.
Oh, absolutely.
And that must have been like, you must have seen that right away.
It was very it's very like, I'll tell you what, when I took the bench test, I went over on my time, I thought I kind of was like not going to get the spot. I'm like, look, after I finished, we sat down together. I'm like, look, please just give me the job. I'm like, I don't care what it takes. I'm like, I just want to learn. You know what I mean? I know I went over my time. He's like, all right.
Which I'm sure those are golden words to a chef like James.
He saw some potential in me, and he was just like, all right, I'm going to give this guy a shot. You know, I think it was the fact that like, even though he told me, it's like, okay, time's up, and I just kind of kept working. It was just kind of like, all right, this guy actually cares. You know, he's whatever. He's going to ride it out, give it his best. So, you know, a week went by, and he called me. He's like, hey, when are you available to start? I put my 2 weeks in. I left, and
nice.
You know, next thing I know, I was working there and just kind of like scared shitless every day because I was so hungry. I'm like, I didn't want to take a fry or anything. I was so hungry. I just wanted like anything. I was like, and then everybody started opening up to me, and next thing I know, I got just dumped on the boiler station, and on a Friday night, I'm like, shit. I'm like, all right. I'm like, it's nothing new. I'm like, this is a new restaurant. Like, it's new. Like, I got to cater members, and like, you know, everything's got to be pristine. I got to probe everything and make sure the temps are dead on. I was like, but it just it worked out. And next thing I know, like, some time flew by, and next thing I know, I'm on saute, and it was like, wow. I'm like, things are like starting to come together, and like, I was building, you know, balancing flavors, and you know, just putting specials together, and all of a sudden, it was like almost too good to be true.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, we've talked to James. He was on one of.
I saw that. It was with Brad.
Yeah, with Brad recently, and then when we did our podcast with Buffalo Eats, he was, you know, I think 3 years ago or something like that. But he always like advocates like, you know, educating and teaching and mentoring and stuff like that. I mean, that's always been his thing. Were you just like trying to soak up as much as possible in the time you were there?
I mean, basically every day was a learning experience, you know. It was, there's so many things, like some days are better than others. You know, some days I was frustrated and like, you know, but
because it's still a country club. So
it's a country club, and the problem was like, as much as I loved being there, you know, I wanted to be able to like invite a friend or family member or somebody in and just be like, you know, come on in and dine tonight, but you can't do that. You know, like, so, but that's okay. I was willing to accept that, and like, we still gave it our all, and like, we made these really beautiful, awesome specials, and just,
right,
you know, so.
But I mean, like, it's a country club, so like there's only so much freedom you have, I guess, with like a menu and the clientele. But it seemed like he tried to make the most of.
He tried to take it to a whole new level.
Yeah,
and I think that like his what I saw was when he was happy when he saw that we like his brigade, like actually understood the point he was trying to get across. And like if that would make him happy, I'm like, maybe if like the front of the house didn't understand it, I'm not dogging the front of the house at all. Some had it and some don't. I know a good server when I see one.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I know it's like my go-to person. Like if they understand like the whole concept behind like why we put this dish together and why like we balance these flavors and like the whole like
they can tell the story.
Why do we make this? Why do we pair this with that? And like, there's the whole reason we did it because of like we know these flavors are gonna work. It's just gonna taste good.
Essentially a story. Like they're telling the story.
Or maybe it's a classic dish, but we tweaked it or something. But basically, I think like it made Roberts happy because it was like we were like basically, he saw that we were like we cared and like we had drive, dedication. It was just like, for that to like just enough for us to like understand like why we're doing it and why we're like busting our ass every day and like maybe we're not making the best buck. Maybe we feel like we should be making more. But it's just like, you know what? Just sometimes it's not all about what you make. It's just what you put into it. Nobody really owes you anything. It's you got to fucking give it your all.
Yeah.
So.
I think he has a definite.
And that was kind of like a I've had a little brief before that, and it was kind of like I never really worked under like anyone talented, and I kind of like bumped around, which it would have been nice. Trust me, it would have been nice to like really work, bounce around and like go to Chicago or New York. And,
stage.
Which I have staged at Liberty Den, which was cool. And that was cool. It was a 1-day stage. I wanted a week, but I didn't get in there longer than that. It was just like that was a rock star weekend. That's a whole other story I could tell you all about that.
That's a pretty legit.
But thank you, James Roberts, for that stage. We worked that out together. We figured that out. Brad Rawls out that weekend, but that's another story. So, but all in all, it was great. I mean, it was, we had fun.
Yeah.
And
I feel like you got a lot of like Malcolm.
That was basically a turning point.
Yeah, yeah.
So
where
it was
you
years.
like saw yourself go into the next.
And that's my thing is like, every place I've ever worked at, it's always been like, I have tenure. Like I can't just go to a place and it's like, give it a try and leave in like a couple weeks. It kind of doesn't work like in a restaurant. It's kind of like, you start working there. You really don't get a feel for things until like, maybe 2-3 months in. That's when you like really get to know everybody you're working next to. I'm like, this is the guy that's going to be slinging with me. Yeah. Slinging pans till, 10:30, 11:30 at night and just sweat dripping down your forehead. Slinging and like chugging quarts of water and just like not eating and just like whatever. I'm like, these are the guys, this is your second family. You know what I mean? Like this is,
you're spending 50 hours a week.
You see these guys every fucking day for, 5, 6, 7 days a week for 80 hours a week, if that or less, whatever. But it's just like, these are the guys you look forward to seeing every day. Yeah. I mean, trust me, I'd love to see my parents every day, but they're in Florida right now. You know what I mean? But I love them to pieces. I'd love to hang out with my girlfriend, but, I wish I could see her much more. But, this is my job. This is my life. So
it's a tough profession for social life.
But I get up and I do it every day because I love it. What I mean?
Well, and you know what? I mean, you're the type of person who should do that. It shouldn't be just a career because it's just something to do.
You gotta find the drive and the dedication and even when some days I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to be at work. Yeah, I'm not the first chef or whatever to say that, but it's like I hate. You gotta find that little push, something like that spark or something to make you like, okay, fine. You know what? I don't want to be here, but all of a sudden, like I just got this great idea to do this, or I think that we should make this dessert, or we should do that. You know what I mean? Like, it takes time. It just
So what was your leap from Park Country Club to Tabree? Was that like the direct?
Well, actually, technically, it was not leaving Park, go right to Tabree. Or what happened was, basically, working at Park was a great experience. Yeah, yeah. And I got to a point where I couldn't get any higher up, and I could have been basically chef or not. Like, I knew all stations. I could, I knew banquet, not as well as I should have, but whatever. I pretty much figured it out. I personally, I love a la carte. I love to be in the weeds. I love to be like get my hands dirty. I'm just gonna stop right there. So basically, what happened was there was a position open at downtown at Embassy Suites.
Oh, okay.
And it was just because of the money and a little more benefits.
Those corporate gigs do well.
I kind of jumped on it, and as soon as I told Roberts about it, and he was like, "Okay, Murphy." He's like, "If that's what you want to do," I gave him the rundown. I took a test. I had to put together 9 courses, 3 apps, 3 desserts, 3 entrees, and they kind of like it was kind of funny because when I left there, like I have a lot of friends in the industry that like I love them and they'll back me up, and I always back them up. I heard through the grapevine that there were some bets being made, like how long is Murphy going to last at this place before he went from like Park Country Club, which is like this great where you learn from Roberts and like all these other great chefs, Fanouche, DL, like the whole 9 yards, and work with Mark Teat, like he's going to fucking lose his cool. And he's like, he went from doing this really great food and like just like basically toning it down to like subpar.
Yeah.
And well, basically, what happened was after 2 weeks, I felt like I was a giant babysitter, and I think I was too qualified for the job.
Okay. Or
I don't mean to like blow smoke on my. I don't mean to blow smoke on my own ass, but it's like I was hired as an AM sous chef to work 5:30 in the morning till 2. That was supposed to be my shift. But you know what? You never have a time and deadline when you get out of work.
Yeah, yeah.
I come in, I never clock. I haven't clocked in years. I'm like, so I don't know when the fuck I get out of work, or when I'm going to get into work, or when I'm going to get out of work. But I'm like, basically, like I get there when when I know I need to be there, and I leave when I know things are cool. When the kitchen is tidy, when it's like everything, the order's done. Like I know that when I leave there, like when I come in tomorrow morning or whenever I come in, we're ready to go. We're ready to fucking nail it. Get after it. So the people that were working there just were not the level I was at. And it was like I didn't want to do this. I felt like it was a rebuilding period. I'm like, I'm not going to do this right now. So I got out of there real quick, and basically I got offered a position at Tabree, and it was mentioned to me, and I went and talked to Bruce, and Bruce was kind of like, first thing he said to me was like, when are you going to leave that hotel gig? Didn't even say hello to me. He's like, when are you going to leave that hotel gig? I'm like, why don't you go sit down in the bar? I'll send you out a few snacks. I'm like, all right. So that's what happened, and I sat down and had a couple snacks, and Brian came out, and I chatted with him, and me, Brian, and Bruce were chatting for a little bit, and one thing led to the next. I was kind of bouncing around, and I pulled the trigger, and I was like, all right, let's do this.
Nice. And so going from a guy like James as like an exec to Bruce, I feel is a little different of personalities.
Completely different personalities. James and Bruce are completely different guys.
Both super talented, but both
very talented chefs, and they're both got their different styles.
Yeah.
And I know they're both friends. I love them both. They're both great people.
Yeah.
With Park being the enormous place that it was, and then going to Tabree, which is like just shrunk down. Like being like, okay, so being at Park was cool because you have like this army of like 15 cooks.
Yeah.
And then like trying to find time to like, talk to the chef and like explain to him like where you're at and like trying to get on the same page is one thing. But like going to Tabree, it's just like, okay, I walked in and like Clash Radio was on, turned up real loud. And I was like, hey, how you doing, Bruce? I'm like, what's up? I'm like, okay, here's day one. You know what I mean? And
that's pretty great.
Like, all right, I make crab cakes. Just here's the recipe. Just bang them out real quick. I'm just like, all right. I'm like, here we go. You know what I mean? Like, all right. And it was just like, just throw on a pair of pants that you're comfortable in and throw on an apron and a black T-shirt. I'm going from being at Park where it was just like, I had to have my check pants on and my apron and my clogs and like make sure I had my necktie on and my toque and maybe not a toque every day, but like okay, certain days sucked when you had to wear a toque. Not dogging the toques, but not a fan of them. But and then I go into Tabree and it was just kind of like, all right, let's do this. You know what I mean? Like basically Bruce was like, you know how to make an aioli? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, all right, you're hired. I'm just like, oh. So yeah, that was
nice.
cool. Yeah.
So So when Bruce left to go to Bourbon and Butter, you kind of took the lead.
So what happened there was Bruce kind of leaked out to me that he wanted to take a little change in pace.
Yeah.
And he basically said, you have the biggest decision out of all of us. And so I kind of had a couple people approach me and said, hey, I heard you're kind of undecisive right now, what you want to do. And I was like, well, it's kind of going to see what happens. Give me some time, let me think about this, And next thing I know, I talked to Brian. He was all about promoting within. I was like, all right, you know what? Why not? I've never been in that position before. I've always been like sous chef, line cook, sous chef. I'm like, why not be executive chef? Try to put a name on myself, and go from there.
Oh, was there?
You know what? Why not give it a shot?
Yeah, was there?
Did you meet a lady?
Did I meet a lady? Somebody just shined in.
Yeah, we have a
I did meet a lady.
Here.
I met this girl, Kamaria, a really beautiful girl, and she.
Don't worry, all this is getting cut out. Don't worry.
Yeah. All right. Well, she keeps me happy. She makes me happy. She's a beautiful girl. She keeps me in check. So.
But was there any? You're literally jumping out into the front taking the executive role.
Basically, what happened was Bruce basically is like, I'm leaving in 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, and two weeks went by real fast, and it was like I had a couple people approach me and say, hey Murph, I heard you're kind of trying to decide what you want to do. I'm just going to throw it out there. We have a position available here. I'm just like, all of a sudden I felt like, wow, this is really cool. All of a sudden I'm like, everybody wants me to work for them. Like, I feel like awesome right now. You know what I mean? Like, but I just kind of was like, all right. And, I spoke with Brian, and he was just like, I feel like you got it in you. I see how you work. I see how you move on the line. I see your motive and the way you just drive yourself every day. I'm like, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
Bruce has got some years and experience on me. That's fine. So he, next thing you know, 2 weeks went by like that. And I was just like, all right. I took over, and everybody started asking me all these questions. They're like, well, how, let's wait till the dust clears. Let's start. And I was getting emails and instant messages and basically oh, good morning, chef. How are things going for you? I'm like, and I was like, I had never really agreed to anything right away. And I was like, words were kind of being put in my mouth.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like, all right, there's just too much at once. And I was just getting a little frustrated. I'm like, I was waking up every morning getting these emails and text messages. I'm like, and IMs. I'm like, this is too much.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I just said, fuck this. I'm like, I'm not even going to answer them. I'm like, I'm going to get up. I'm going to get in the shower. I'm going to get ready for work. I'm going to grab my coffee at Taza, and I'm going to go right to work. And I'm not going to answer any phone calls or text messages unless I have to.
Yeah.
And because I was just getting so frustrated, because it was just like, you know what? I just want to go to work and cook food and do my normal routine. Why do I got to do this extra shit?
Yeah.
And then finally it was like I decided what this is okay. We're going to do. I'm going to work at Tabree, and I'm going to take over the position, and that's how it's going to be. And,
nice.
A couple, two guys stuck it out. One guy just unfortunately didn't work out. Not going to mention any names, but you know who you are. And
nice.
The other guy, Adrian, I'm going to shout out to Adrian Baluski. He, stuck by my side. And he's currently a sous chef, and we're just rocking out, doing our thing.
How long do you think it took you since taking over to feel like you got back to
a lot of people ask me how you feeling. I'm like, I felt less stressed as a chef as opposed to being sous chef, because I felt like when I was Bruce's sous chef, I love Bruce to pieces.
Yeah.
But I felt like I had to so much. I had to show him and prove to him and
yeah. Yeah, that's
the guy. I'd only known Bruce for less than a year.
Yeah.
And one of the first things Brian asked me was have you guys ever worked together before? I'm like, no. I'm like, but I know who Bruce is. I'm like, I know his background.
Yeah, he's got a good resume.
Several months after I started working there, one point Bruce was like, Murph, at one point in the day, we're like, with the music blast in the background, he's like, Murphy's like, there's 3 people I trust in my entire life, and you're one of them. I'm like, really? I'm like, do you mind me asking who the other 3 are? It's like, the other choice, like, well, you probably know the other one. I'm guessing is lovely lady Amanda.
Yes.
And I don't know who the third person is, but I think I got an idea. Whatever. But for him to say that, and for me to like barely know this guy, and for him to say like there's 3 people in his life that he trusts, and I'm one of them, and then not even a week later he asked me to stand up in his wedding. I'm like, it would be a fucking honor.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So that meant a lot to me. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
When someone like that, like, because that's someone I was spending day in and day out, and like, I would never I would do the best I can to not let that guy down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
no, and so I mean that would make you want to work as hard as you possibly can every day.
Yeah, and I knew like he was just like me, maybe a couple years older, and just trying to like keep the dream alive and just make it happen, and just like realize like he's good at what he does, and like he's just kind of like he's a humble chef, and he's just kind of like he knows he's good at what he does, but he's not gonna like take too much credit for it, because you know what, we have people coming in there and taking pictures from, the Spree to
you guys
whatever,
got a 10 out of 10 in the Buffalo
exactly
News.
And and it's kind of was like
when you were in the kitchen.
Well, that is very true.
I think it's documented that he was out of the kitchen that day. So.
You know what? Yes, I was the person in that kitchen that day. And you know who else was in that kitchen? It was Ed Forrester and Ted Keneally, who is I don't know where he is right now, but he's.
But you were part of that team that
Bruce and Brian were at the March of Dimes.
Yeah, I was with them that night.
Yeah,
I was at the event.
With them. Okay, and Carl, this table came in. It was like a Wednesday, and they went like 3 courses, and we nailed everything as far as I know. And,
you got a 10 out of 10, so I'm assuming yes, you nailed all the courses.
Carl comes back, the server, and he's like, I'm pretty sure that was Andrew Galarneau out there. I'm like, and I was like, really, Carl? I'm like, you could have told me that like an hour ago. I'm just like,
maybe when they sat down.
But nothing came back. Everything was fine. They were content. And then, so like that next, Brian and Bruce just kind of like bolted through the back door. Like they just came back. I'm like, Carl's like, oh yeah, Andrew Galarneau's out there. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, they're like, how was everything? I'm like, they were fine. I'm like, I think they were okay. I'm like, I think they were okay. So the next, like, it was supposed to come out the following Thursday, and then there was like some miscommunication. So it was like 2 weeks. So like, there's like everybody was like, make sure everything goes out perfect, and like everybody was riding everybody's ass. I'm like, and I just said, I'm like, I'm pretty sure we fucking nailed it. I'm like, I nailed it. I'm like, I took Bruce's food and I made it fucking shine. I'm like, you know what? I did what a sous chef was supposed to do. He wanted me. I was taking the reins of the place for the day while he was not there, and just keeping an eye on the whole, making sure the fort was held down, and so
nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And just kind of just brought it, and just
it
worked out. And then 2 weeks passed. I get this call at 7:00 in the morning from Brian. He's like, Murph, 10 out of 10, not bad. I was just like, I got a call from Bruce. He's like, get there early now. He's like, we got mad reservations. I'm just like, all right. And then Bruce, a person who does not like to hug or be communicated with anyone,
I could
like does not like to touch anyone except for his girlfriend, or fiance. Fiance. Let me correct that. He gave me a hug that day. He said, thank you, Murph.
That's adorable.
Hey, Bruce,
I'm so glad we have this on audio now.
Yeah. So you cut out what you want to cut out of this. But,
I'm not cutting that out. We're keeping that in.
All right.
I mean, that's some big shoes to fill. I mean,
it is. And you know what? Like I said before, it was like everyone's like, well, how do you feel about taking over a position? I was like, well, to be honest with you, I was less stressed.
Yeah.
Only because I felt like I had to deliver to Bruce, and like Bruce is like this awesome chef in Buffalo, and like but like a lot of people look up to him, and like what he does with the whole charcuterie program, and like working with the 2 minnow pigs, and that was like just I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, that's not something you just pick up one just like, okay, because you're taking a guy that like has done it 100 times over, and then you gotta take me, who's like kind of very not familiar with it at all, and just be like, okay, we're going to bring a pig down today. I'm like, well, like, okay, let's do it. I'm all for it. I'm there. It's 8:00 in the morning. Let's do it. But I'm like, you have to kind of walk me through it. I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm like, never done this before. I've done it, but I kind of got like a very,
Yeah.
So then we did a couple times, and like it was expected, like I should know this by like the third time. Like, well, I'm still learning it because there was such a gap in between each time we would do it. It was just like, and it was unfortunate when he left. That was like, I felt like I was getting a feel for it.
Yeah.
And to see him leave, I was like, damn, that sucks, because it was like I could finally figure it out now. Like I was kind of getting a feel for it and like understanding like how it worked. And, like, the whole anatomy of the pig and, like, this and that. I'm like, really, that you need to respect the animal and use it from nose to tail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's so much. You can literally use the entire animal. But he left, and it was just like, okay, now I got to figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
And
was there any part of you that thought about putting your own spin on the menu or trying to keep it for most of what it was known for? Or,
as far as that goes, like, I was a little less stressed at first. I was like, this isn't too bad. I'm like, because it's kind of my show. I'm like, I can ride this out. I can make things happen. I can make it work. And like, let's pair things together. And like, guys were leaving, guys were going. Like, people were on the fence, like whether they were gonna fucking hang out or just bounce, or like it just wasn't, the money wasn't there, or whatever wasn't there. Or just they weren't feeling it. I'm like, look, I'm gonna tell you straight up, I'm still learning. I'm like, I'm gonna give you the best knowledge I can. And if you want to ride it out with me and stick it out, let's keep our fingers crossed and hope it works.
Nice.
And, as far as the menu worked, yes, I have input on the menu, but sometimes, it's, the owner wants to kind of keep his input on as well. And, I got to respect that.
If there's hits, they still got to stay on there.
And that you got to, there's our top items, there's our items that sell, our menu items that sell, and then there's some that are just kind of like, if they don't work out, we got to drop them.
Yeah.
And then, so with that being said, I got to make it shine on the specials. So if I got a link on something that says like I got a nice cut of meat in, or like a nice, fish, let's just go seasonal. Let's make it, pair some great menus or flavors together and just make it happen. You know, and that's if I can't put my menus on the item if I can't put my preps on the menu that I want to do, then fine, I'll bring it with the specials. Yeah. So, we'll go from there.
What are your goals? I guess we can kind of like wrap it up a little bit. What are your goals for the rest of this year and going forward with Tabree? And
the new year just dropped not too long ago, and this year is kind of like I've decided it's kind of like my year of pushing myself a little bit and challenges, and so that's why I kind of decided I wanted to do Nickel City Chef. It was not my idea originally. It was Adrian's. I'll give him. I don't take credit for another man's work. So he said that let's do it, and we did it. And we got accepted. So we're gonna take it on, and we're gonna make it happen. Any other challenges that come at us, basically every day is just like it's an upward battle. Being Valentine's Day was yesterday, and Friday, Saturday we really took a beating, but we held our own, and we gave it our all. We had a lot of fun, and ready to take on next week and see what else is out there.
Nice.
It's going to kind of probably die out the next couple of weeks, but every day, like I said, is an upward battle. So
nice, man. Well, honestly, really appreciate you coming down here and talking to me. We've met each other here and there, but I've never really gotten to sit down with you.
May or may not have rambled on a little bit, but whatever.
Hey, that's the point of this. That's why we give people boosts. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I mean, this is kind of like just as if we were just hanging out on a regular day basis. This is another day at the office. Yeah,
so. And good luck on your competition coming up.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We're looking forward to it. So.
Awesome. Well, thanks. Thanks, Mark.
You got it.